People who have taken the view at this spot in northern Pickens County use many different words to describe what they see. Some call it breathtaking and spectacular, while others call it God's country. A fitting description given its proximity to Soapstone Baptist Church in the county's Little Liberia community. But hundreds of years ago, another group of people here likely saw this scenic view in a different light.
This is where the first 900 black slaves settled in the upstate of South Carolina.
Mabel Owens Clark also says Soapstone is perhaps the first black church in upstate South Carolina, and its existence dates back to the early 1800s when her great-grandfather founded this house of worship. The church got its name from the actual soapstone in the area, but that's just one piece of its history. Much more is buried behind these trees off a road next to the church.
The soapstone rock is a rock that the slaves used for their tombstone because during slavery they had no funds, no money available to buy headstones.
Those stones recently gained the attention of some Clemson University students and faculty. Members of the Clemson University Anthropology Club spent a day at the cemetery cleaning up the site and marking off potential graves.
We had several groups of students. The first group went through and raked off the cemetery so that we could expose the tombstones. And then we have a second group going through and mapping the exact location of the tombstones and also the perimeter of the cemetery. And then we have a third group going through and taking photographs and writing down documentation of the information on the gravestones.
Kevin Kenross is president of the club. His major is sociology and his minor is anthropology.
We call that a shadow anthropology major because in effect what you do is you take as many anthropology courses as you desire and then take your core sociology classes, and that's the path that I took. So I would be graduating with a degree in anthropology if we had it.
Kenross is hopeful Clemson someday will offer the degree. Meanwhile, he's grateful he and the other students are able to apply what they're learning in anthropology to the Soapstone Cemetery.
Being able to use our skills in anthropology and helping other cultures and archaeology skills and be able to actually use those to help the local community is a lot more than just being able to go to another country and do excavation and stuff like that. Being involved locally really means a lot to me.
It also means a lot to Soapstone Baptist Church members, friends, and family. The origins and history of the community lie primarily in the memories of the descendants, which is why any documentation helps present an alternate view of this critical chapter in upstate history.
I think it's an excellent idea for everybody concerned, for them so that they can learn and be aware of the evolution of history. And for those of us who may have forgotten, this will certainly uncover and bring back to our memories those things that were and where the Lord has brought us from.
Soapstone also is a place near and dear to the heart of Ruth McJunkin Adams. She has family roots planted here and many fond childhood memories, including homecoming.
That's when you get an opportunity to see all of the neighbors sit down and eat in fellowship. That was just something to look forward to every first Sunday. We knew we were coming.
Adams also remembers eating lunch in the small one-room schoolhouse adjacent to the church. Mabel Clark actually attended the school.
That was the first black school in the upstate of South Carolina, and I had the privilege to attend that school. I went there from the 1st through the 5th grade. They closed the school when I was in the 5th grade, and so we started to get buses. We had to go to Easley because we couldn't attend the white schools, even though we passed maybe for approximately about 3 white schools before we got to Easley. But that was during the time of segregation.
Clark includes the school in her vision for telling the hidden stories buried at the slave cemetery. She credits Clemson anthropology professor Mike Coggeshall for starting the process. Coggeshall read bits and pieces about Soapstone from various sources and decided to check out the community for himself. That's when he met Clark.
He told me he would like to document the history on Soapstone Baptist Church.
Clark hopes work by the Clemson Anthropology Club will lead to a book of records. She wants to make sure Liberia's history is shared and preserved. The cemetery is on the South Carolina National Heritage Corridor. Clark hopes to see the church, schoolhouse, and cemetery listed in the National Historic Registry, and she sees turning the school building into a museum. Clark is confident the area's history and location can be added to South Carolina's list of tourist attractions, something she says slave masters never thought of.
They brought them over here into this part, what they called the valley, because they said this land over here wasn't fit for anything, to grow anything. So white masters didn't want to be over here, so they stayed out on the main road and put the slaves over here, which they call the valley. They decided to name it Little Liberia, after Africa. They didn't know it has turned out to be one of the most beautiful pieces of property that could be that they gave away.
But friends, family, and students and faculty from Clemson University know its value, from the church house to the cemetery. They want what Mabel Clark wants.
Really just give those slaves some dignity that they so well deserve. Any light that can be shined on that cemetery, I can see those people in that grave just smiling and saying thank you.
And maybe the light that accompanies honor, dignity, and recognition will be just enough to wipe away the tears of the past in order to celebrate the future.